Hello everyone, and don't worry, this is the last video we'll be showing today from the Magnus Invitational, so you can, attend to other matters. Not everything is about chess. It's Hikaru Nakamura versus Magnus Carlsen, and we have reached the phase of Armageddon. So Nakamura with the white pieces has 5 minutes on the clock, Magnus has 4 minutes on the clock, and Nakamura needs to win the game. If the game is drawn, or Magnus wins, then the match goes to Magnus. And when I say Nakamura has 5 minutes and Carlsen has 4, that's how it usually works. But we'll get to that. So here Nakamura, as he was very happy with both of his games with the white pieces, continues with e4. Sorry about that. And Magnus goes c5. He was also very happy with his game where he went for the Sicilian until that Zwischenzug moment where Nakamura was able to trick him. But here Magnus is confident that that will not happen. So knight f3, e6, we have a repetition of game 4, c captures knight f6, and knight to c3. We have d6, bishop to e3, and bishop to e7, thus Scheveningen Sicilian. And in game 4, Nakamura went for f4 here, but now he switches the bishop to e2. He doesn't want to give Magnus an easy game, and the bishop will nicely support all the pawn pushing that will happen, f4, g4, g5, as Nakamura it needs to win this game, to win the match. So knight to c6, and f4 now. We have castles by Magnus, and now knight to b3, avoiding any unnecessary trades. We have a6, preparing b5, so of course Nakamura stops it, and b6, now preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop. We have castles by Nakamura and bishop to b7 by Magnus. We have bishop to f3, a usual move against the Sicilian. You want to enforce the e4 square and also challenge black's light square bishop on b7. We have knight to d7 by Magnus, as you are expecting g4, g5, and Nakamura goes for it. So g4. And there is one game in the database where knight to c5 was played, but here we have knight to a5 instead. And it is as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. So obviously Magnus is offering a trade of pieces here, even though it will double up his a pawn, but Magnus is very confident in his knowledge of Sicilian pawn structure, so Nakamura doesn't want to have anything to do with that. So instead we have g5, Nakamura continues pushing, and now knight to c4 goes after the b2 pawn, but also after the bishop on e3. So you defend against both with bishop to c1, and now e5 by Magnus, putting pressure on the g5 pawn, because now if you push f5, you just lose the pawn here. So bishop to e2, trying to kick away the knight from c4, and now comes rook to c8, simply defending. With h4 by Nakamura, now the g5 pawn is defended, and you cannot allow this pawn to advance to f5, so Magnus captures on f4. We have rook captures, and now knight d to e5, grabbing more space in the center. An excellent outpost for the knight. Knight to d5 by Nakamura, and here Magnus just says, I don't mind, you can have d7 bishop or whatever you want, and knight to g6. He goes after Nakamura's rook on f4. We have rook back to f2, and here Magnus could go for the h4 pawn, but he first trades in the center with bishop captures on d5, which is not the most precise way, as Nakamura will show. So bishop captures on d5. We have e captures on d5, and only now knight captures on h4, but now Magnus runs into a double attack with queen to d4, with an attack on the h4 knight, and also with a double attack on the c4 knight. So Magnus has to figure out how to go about this, and he finds the absolute best move. Well, the only move that gives black the advantage. Bishop captures on g5. He gives up the knight on c4, but for a lot of counterplay. So we have bishop captures on c4, bishop captures on c1, we have rook captures on c1, and now queen to g5 with check. And it does connect with the rook on c1, however, luckily for Nakamura, the rook is guarded. But there are other problems here. And as you'll see later, it was at about this moment that Nakamura received a message from the arbiter regarding the game, while the game was being played, that he should abort the game and that they should redo the game, because it wasn't Nakamura who had a minute extra on the time. He even had less time on the clock. It was some sort of a blunder They made on chess 24, which gave Carlsen even more time on Armageddon, which really makes no sense. I haven't seen the live coverage of the Armageddon, so if anyone knows like specifically everything what happened, do share in the comment section below. I will pin it so everyone else can see. But it was something weird. So Nakamura has to decide between King H1 and King to F1, and it's not an easy decision. Nakamura went for King to F1, however King to H1 is the way to go, even though it would be impossible to realize why with so little time on the clock, because after Queen H5 you have Bishop to E2, now challenging the Queen, but you have Knight F3 check, which connects with the Queen, and then after King G2 you can trade here. Knight captures, Bishop captures on H5, Knight captures on B3, you cannot recapture because of captures, and now you have to move the Rook. Now your Knight is under attack, so once the Knight moves, now you capture on F7 and the game continues. And Nakamura said that it wouldn't have made a difference. It would have made a difference regarding how the game continues, but Nakamura still needs to win this, and this is far from winning for White. After King H8, it's still Black who's better, as he is up a pawn. But okay, Nakamura went King to F1 after that awkward message from the arbiter. And now this runs into a bit of a problem after Knight to F5 from Carlsen, and now there's not much White can do, because if you move the Queen, wherever you move the Queen doesn't really matter. Knight E3 check connects with the Bishop on C4. So after the King moves, you're just gonna trade and pick up the Bishop. You're up 2 pawns in a much better position. Also, this pawn is hanging, so it would be just a winning endgame for Black. So instead, Nakamura decided to give up the Rook. We have Queen captures on F5, King G2, and now Magnus delivers check. Queen G5 check. King F3, Queen F5 check. We have King to G2, and now Magnus is happy repeating, although he should go for something like this if this was a real game, but he only needs a draw to win the match, so he's very, very happy with Queen G5 check. King to F3, and here Magnus repeats Queen F5 check, and now Hikaru can either, walk the plank or settle for a draw and lose the match. So he decides to go with the plank, King E2, but now Rook F8 comes with check. We have King to D2, and now Magnus just delivers Rook to E4, and it was in this position that Hikaru Nakamura resigned the game, and with it he lost the match. Now there's not much you can do here. Your Queen is under attack, and when the Queen moves, of course you will lose the Bishop, so whatever you do just captures, and White's position is completely hopeless. And also, I prepared, here we go, this is Nakamura's tweet that he wrote after the game. So he says, a fun match, a very unsatisfactory ending, with the arbiter writing a message to me in the middle of the game to abort while I'm thinking about playing King F1 or King H1. Not that it changes the outcome, but still. It might have changed the outcome of the game, although unlikely of the match, as Nakamura needed a win with the white pieces. But, it does rattle you. And everyone thought that Nakamura would request a replay, or that they would have to play another game, as it wasn't fair that he received less time. But he, as I understand, he requested no such thing, and in the end, Magnus wins the match. So, like I said, if any of you knows exactly what happened and what sorcery was at work here, do write in the comment section. I will pin it, and so everyone else can see as well. But yeah, that's the first match we're showing. Carlsen versus Nakamura. Carlsen wins it, and we are continuing with Ding versus Alireza before the start of tomorrow's games. That's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Konstantinos Mavromatis for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Both of them will be from the Magnus Invitational. And I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of more games from the Magnus Invitational. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.